So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have back with us Jon Wright, who's founder and CEO at Feel Electric. So, firstly, Jon, thank you for coming back. And if you'd like to remind us about yourself, Feel Electric, introduce yourself, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Well, nice to be back again. Thanks for the invite.
Very
And
welcome.
yeah, it's been a busy few months since we spoke last year. Obviously, Feel Electric, we're promoting electromuscular stimulation. That's what we do.
Yes.
But fundamentally, we're a health tech business. So we built a SaaS platform, if you remember, and
Yep.
what we're doing is we're rolling out that SaaS platform that's specifically for EMS studios and actually other modalities as well.
Yep.
So we're getting into um, other wellness studios now as well, not just EMS. But I can tell you a bit more about that. But yeah, so we've developed a SaaS platform that does all the usual things, and then we're now licensing that both in the UK, but actually we've started internationally as well. So we've sold our first master territory. We're in discussions with probably another half a dozen international territories as well.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
yeah, it's been a bit busy few 8 months. I think when we did our forecast, we were forecasting to start doing international territories in 2027,
Oh,
and
goodness.
we're just about to sign our second one this year. So that things have, from an international point of view, things have accelerated much quicker than we expected, which is
Yes.
good. It's interesting. And we continue to roll out across the UK as well. So
Brilliant.
and indeed, as I intimated earlier, we're sort of getting in front of other wellness opportunities that isn't just EMS. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's been busy.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And for anyone that might be watching, what would make a great client or contact for you? What sort of people should be getting in touch and talking
Do,
about what you do?
do you know what? Anyone who's looking for a really all-encompassing platform to run their, whether it's a studio, it could be any sort of boutique offering. So it's all the usual payment collections and booking systems, but
Yep.
then we've added in, NPS feedback. We've got HR elements. We've got timekeeping
Right.
elements. We do payroll. We do accounting.
Right.
Uh, it's all entwined with the marketing. So it's one full ecosystem that
Yep.
measures everything. And of course, we work heavily with Embody, so we're measuring everybody's results very accurately as well. So
Yep.
it's one very coherent ecosystem that works very well together. And I suppose that as more and more people are more interested in getting that data, people's health data,
Yes.
so we can actually properly measure people results, which is why, I mean,
Yes.
Embody, a fantastic company and are lifting off in a massive way, but we've tied in with them and API'd into them. So we pull all their data directly into our platform as well. And we've also added in AI to help people understand the health data that comes out of Embody. And we're the
Yep.
first people to do that. You know, Embody 770 will measure something like 250 data points, which is a huge amount of data. I
Yep.
mean, we focus on about 35, but if you have 10 different trainers or personal trainers or anybody look at 10 different data sets, they'll talk about 10 different things. You've got so much data, and how you interpret that data is incredibly important. And
Yep.
I suppose you're looking for commonality when you're talking to your clients. Then what we've done is we've come up with an AI that measures and monitors that data and puts it into a format that people can understand. Because ultimately, some of the data we're measuring, it's not just body composition and visceral fat, but it's people's cell health, it's phase angle. I mean, how many operators are measuring phase angle? It's a medical term. Not many, I wouldn't have thought.
Yep.
So you need somebody to explain what phase angle is to
Yes.
people, and that hence why we've developed the AI element to our platform.
Brilliant.
So, so the platform develops at a pace, continues to develop, and we're still looking to integrate wearable tech into it as well.
Yeah.
So we will have a full 360-degree view of people's health and well-being.
Brilliant, brilliant. And if you're able to share, I'm keen to know where you said you've got two, potentially two master territories being sold. How did that connection come about? Because I'm quite keen. Did they approach you? You approached them? What? Give me
No,
a
no, they approached us actually, and I mean we do go to the International Franchise Show every April, so you do get international interest there. However, both of the ones that well, the one we have sold and the one we're in the process of selling, they came direct to us. We have, as a team, because we've grown significantly as a business, so we've now recruited a whole sort of middle tier of management into the business.
Yep,
So we have a full-time franchise recruitment person in place
yep.
who's very experienced, been recruiting franchisees both nationally and internationally for 15 years across
Brilliant.
all sorts of different
Yeah,
industries. So he's come with a wealth of experience. So now we're actually, and we've also recruited a very high-end marketing manager as well. So I suppose in the past we've been very reactive in terms of business coming into us, whereas now we're moving into much more of a proactive phase.
yep,
So we're now it's not specifically targeting America, for instance, all the
yep.
different states in America. I mean, we see America as being by far our biggest market in the years to come. So but then there's lots of other territories we're targeting as well. So
Brilliant. No, I
exciting
just
times.
yeah, just interesting. I work with another with a business that's franchising themselves, and like literally they're in the US because somebody from here wanted to take it over there. They were going
Yeah,
over there, and then the other one is in South Africa where they were approached. And it's just always interesting just to see where where these leads come from, these opportunities come from, because they can very much. I think the lesson for that is always be marketing, always be telling people what we do, because you just never know, do you, where that connection's coming from.
exactly. No, that's exactly right. And I suppose what we've seen now, we're matured on a bit. I think we last spoke in December, was it December last year? So
Yeah,
we're on another sort of 10 months, something like that.
yeah,
What we've seen is people who've taken a single site now have three or four sites, so
right,
they've taken on they've grown like that. But then equally, we've got people in the UK who are wanting to take it internationally. So we've got somebody who wants to go to Spain, got somebody who wants to go to the Philippines of all places.
right.
So it is right. You build relationships with people, and they see the opportunity, and
Yeah,
they can see the opportunity of taking on a whole country. It's a much different sell. You're talking about a much different type of person that would do that, or a caliber of person that would do that. But
yeah,
it's interesting that people in the UK are looking to take it abroad.
yes,
But then
yes.
equally, we're dealing with a lot of people in London, and a lot of them, are from international countries before they came to London.
Yeah.
So
It
it's a small world we live in these days. It's got a lot smaller.
it certainly is. It's yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating what's going on. Actually, just well, something comes to mind because I remember many years ago our founder Brad Sugars, who obviously is the founder of our franchise Action Coach, being a global franchised organisation. I think we're 92 countries or something like that. But one thing he said that I remember sort of I took a step back from. He said most people believe franchises are 80% systems and 20% relationship. In other words, what you're buying is the ability to do business. It's the idea is business in a box. I'm not saying that's what it is, but and he said, don't get me wrong, the systems have to be great, but it's actually 80%, 20% systems and 80% relationship. If we don't build the relationships with our franchisees and franchisors, then the franchise won't be as successful as it could be. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the two are intertwined, to be honest, because the relationships are all about trust. That's
Yes,
the most important thing.
yes,
And but they've got franchisees need to trust you to follow your processes.
yeah,
And I suppose we've you know as with all things, you go on a learning curve with these things, and you learn from your first few franchises, and
Yes.
especially now we brought somebody in who's got 15 years experience of working in the franchise world, which I'd never had before, so franchising was new to me.
Yeah.
And I think we've become a lot more rigid in terms of insisting on our processes being in place. And I think in the early days, we were saying, when a franchisee said, well, can we do this? Can we change this? Can we change that? We were always like,
Yes.
well, we wanted to please. So,
Yeah.
whereas in actual fact, I think we've learned that lesson now that no,
Yeah.
we've got processes in place for a reason.
For a reason.
But you're
Yeah.
right about the relationship. You've got to have that relationship where that franchisee trusts you enough
Yeah.
to follow your processes.
Yeah.
And I suppose Sam, who's the gentleman I was telling you about, has got 15 years experience. He always tells me one story about a client he had who had some a McDonald's in the centre of London, which you would just think would be a license for printing
Yes.
money. But they were on the verge of closing or being taken back because they were failing. And it was at that point he realised that I've just not followed the process. And as soon as
Right.
he started following the process, then they started to work. And I suppose that's you are buying a franchise, you're buying proven models, proven processes. So that's what you are buying. But the trust has got to be there that you trust those processes. So it's both. It is both. I mean, I would say we are far more selective now in terms of the franchisees
Yes.
we take on board. But again, when you're starting from scratch, you've got to start from
Yeah.
somewhere, and as your business matures and gets bigger, then you can be a bit more selective in terms of who you take on board. And that's what's happened with us.
Yeah. No, I'm smiling a little bit because I just remember I was one of I've been in my franchise 20 years now, so I was one of the early adopters. And what was interesting was I think while franchises are there for people that in general like to follow systems processes, that's what they're buying into. A new franchise is often taken on by early adopters like myself, and we don't
Yeah,
want to follow systems. Why the hell? And the learning was exactly that: follow the system, and it was something I took several years to learn. And now when I teach other franchisees, because I do some of the training, it's like number one, follow the system, trust the system, value the system. That's what you bought. Why would you
exactly.
buy? Why would you buy something and then choose to do something different? But there we are. Looking in the mirror. We make those learnings, I think. So yeah, I urge any franchisee to follow the system because you've created it. You know what it does. You're refining it on a regular basis, I'm sure. Um, so, so John, since obviously been a little while since we last spoke, what have been some of the key challenges to go from where you were then to where you are now? What are some of the things that have happened?
Key challenges, I suppose doing the first international
Yep.
has been, that's been a learning curve. You're dealing with different currencies. So,
Yes.
that's a steep learning curve there. And obviously it's a whole new legal process and just adopting your processes into a different culture. So
Yep.
that you've got to take on board those nuances, and just the geography of being in a different region. So, I wouldn't say it's been it's not been a challenge. Well, I suppose it is a challenge, but it's a lots of learnings.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
lots of learning. So all in a good way. Um, but the biggest challenge we've got is we're running out of office space because we've grown our
Brilliant.
grown our team so quickly, and so we'll be moving to new offices next early next year at some
Brilliant.
point.
Oh,
Um, but in terms of I suppose the good things that have happened, I think recruitment's much easier now than it has been.
right.
The labour market definitely has loosened. There's no question about that.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Um, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. Clearly, the last budget wasn't amazing for employers,
Yes.
and so you've seen a loosening of the labour market. But I
Yeah.
actually think AI is probably having a bigger impact
Yep.
now on the labour market than anything. You
Yes.
know, we've done, as I intimated earlier, we've done some fair amount of recruiting in the last few months. Probably did 30 interviews. The majority of the interviews I did were with people who'd been made redundant because of AI. and that for me was
Wow.
quite an eye opener
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
It's, you read about things in the press and you read about what's happening with AI, but actually when you're meeting people face to face, and that's the reason they've been made redundant, then it kind of
yeah,
really hits home the impact
yeah,
that AI is already starting to have
yeah.
on the workplace and on the labour market.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I've not come across that yet myself, but that is understandable. I did pick up a little while ago, probably last year, that I think post COVID there one of the reasons it was an employees marketplace was the number of available jobs. Let's get this right. I think the number of advertised jobs was something like about one at its height about 1.4 million
Mm.
as a key performance indicator, and they reckon about 850,000 is when the tide turns back towards it being more of an employer's market, which I would
Yeah.
imagine is the point where we are, given what you've just said, is that it's yeah,
Definitely, and I suppose the acid test for me is, we're a tech business, so we're increasing our dev team, so we've just recruited another developer,
yeah,
and we had over 100 applicants for one position. So, you
wow,
know, if you go back 12 months, that would not have been the case
uh,
at all. So
not,
I think that tells you everything about the job market right now.
yeah,
Um,
fascinating. That is fascinating. That's almost. I think for me personally, that's the first sort of evidence of what is probably yet to come in many ways, and why we need to look at our own businesses and employment about what we do moving forward. I guess.
Well,
Uh,
I think, if I was a graduate now, the number one thought process I would be having is, uh, can AI do my job?
yeah,
That's what I'd be saying to myself right now. And I speak to lawyers and people like that, and that whole first off the rank graduate lawyers, that's just disappeared completely because AI does that completely now.
yeah.
So, which is, I did ask my lawyer, does that mean my legal fees are going to come down? And of course, he skirted around the houses and say, oh, well, we still need to oversee all the AI and everything. So, but
Brilliant.
I'm sure there'll be some cost reductions at some point. But things like the law, AI can do tremendous things in
Yes.
terms of answering some quite complex legal questions. So,
Yeah.
and there's many other things that it does as well, as you well know. So, in our industry, so nutrition's another one. We were employing nutritionists to do
Yeah.
work. We don't need to anymore because
Yeah.
AI does that. So,
Yeah.
it is having a significant impact on what we
Yes.
do already, and it's only going to it's only going to increase, I think.
Yeah, I think like we had a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who you may or may not know. You either know him or we don't know him, but he obviously he's a very strong influencer in business and success in general. He's got about 50 million followers. But we had him over at our UK conference, and he was saying, he said eventually you'll be high, there'll be a job to go for a walk with somebody, because that's the sort of thing that you can't replace with AI, is somebody just to go. And I think maybe, yeah, thinking about it is that, things like service industry, while that's, and the hospitality industry, while that is tough, you can't really replace the smile, the welcome, the human contact. You can certainly do probably the cleaning and the various other things, but there's certain things that won't be replaced, I don't think, or certainly will be valued. Fascinating. And
Just to give you a note, so in terms of salespeople, that so we're just about to delve into the auto dialing, AI
yes,
auto dialing, and I've looked at a couple of these different sales operations that use AI, and I wouldn't know now I was talking to AI. You
no,
just wouldn't know. You just simply wouldn't know, and you can have a salesperson sit there and do 20, well, maybe 40 or 50 calls a day, or you can have AI doing 20 to 30,000 calls a day. It's, you know, it's a big difference
100%. Yeah,
at
we
a
tried.
fraction of the price.
We're the same. We tried it a while ago, and we actually did it with live, live prospects, and then called them afterwards. And very few were aware they're actually talking to AI.
Mm,
And it was fascinating, and it's and we've embedded. There's a business I know in Leeds I've introduced to one of my clients, and they've embedded a sales support agent into their business already, just primarily to gather the information, provide information, and then feed into the sales team. But all that legwork of and it's more inbound than it is outbound, but just that legwork of answering questions about product services, it can gobble up so much information and then recall it
yeah.
far better than most people once they hit a certain age. That's for sure. Um, and obviously you've had quite a few wins since we last met. I'm always keen to know from entrepreneurial people. I always find entrepreneurial people aren't great at celebrating their wins. They're always looking at what's next and what hasn't been achieved. How good are you at celebrating your wins, John? Would you say?
Well, so culture's everything for us. So we as a team we go out and have a night out probably every 2 months.
Brilliant.
Uh, so yeah, no, it's really important for us. Forgive me if I told you this before, but so when it comes to recruiting people, I have a bit of a golden rule, and if within 30 seconds of me meeting them, if I ask myself a question, would I go and have a beer with this person? And if the answer is no, then it ends up being quite a short, recruitment
Yep.
process. So for me, this idea of work and home and I spend more time at work than I do with my family. So I want to enjoy the people,
Yes.
enjoy working with the people that I work with. So
Yes.
so culture's everything, and yeah, we go out every couple of months, and we have a good night out. I'm not as young as I used to be, so I generally slope off about 9 o'clock and leave all the youngsters to
Yeah.
it. They ended up, out to the early hours of the morning. I can't do that anymore. I need
I
to be
know
in
that
bed by
feeling.
9 o'clock these days.
I know that feeling. Yeah, time goes really fast, doesn't it? It's like it was only a couple of weeks ago when you were the last one to leave the party, and then eventually the first one. It doesn't take long, I must admit. Um, yeah, no, it's really important. One of the things we do in the recruitment process, we work with our clients is we're familiar with doing group events because we just get because our proposition is recruit on attitude over experience. So we
Mm.
don't look at CVs. We just say, look, if you think you're qualified, come to a group event, and we'll talk it through. And what we often do is that idea of speed interviewing, and it's not that part of the interview is nothing to do with whether you can do the job. It's 2 or 3 minutes. Would I get on with this person
Mm.
if I was working with them, as you said, whether I was having a beer or a coffee or whatever? Is that, and you sort of know that within the first few minutes of speaking to
You
somebody.
get a gut feeling straight
Yes.
away, don't you? And
Yeah.
I think when you've been around as long as we've been around, your gut feeling's probably the most important thing you can rely on.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I've come to believe I'm not sure I was told this is true, but I'm pretty confident our gut is actually our subconscious communicate with us because it can't
Yeah.
directly communicate with us. It has to give us feelings. And I think that's just our subconscious, which is, as my coach tells me, is the most powerful supercomputer in the world. It can process all this information, all this body language and stuff, and go, yeah, not sure, or thumbs up, whichever that might be. And John, I think you may remember I love to collect quotes and sayings about business and success in general. I don't know. I wondered if you have any. I can't remember if you shared one last time, but any favourite ones that you're using at the moment?
Well, my favorite one always is always success never travels in a straight line. So I probably said that last time because it's my favorite quote. And it's
Brilliant.
true, it just, success isn't linear like that. Some days you take a few steps backwards, but there's no such thing as failure. It's just learning. And I know everyone says that, and it sounds corny, but it's true.
Yeah.
You learn from your failures better than your successes. But no, success doesn't travel in a straight line, and that's the one I always. And it's
Yeah.
quite a good saying actually, because if you have had a failure and then you just say, well, success doesn't travel in a straight line, then you just we're entrepreneurs, are very resilient people. We just sort of put it to the back of our head and move on to the next thing, and off we go.
You put me in mind of my um, the first wonderful robotic invention I invested in, which was a robotic vacuum cleaner. And it goes in a straight line till it hits something, then it backs up a bit, it goes another direction, then backs up a bit until it finds a way forward. And perhaps we can learn one or two things from robots, but that's the point, isn't it? I'll go in this direction. No, it doesn't work. Back up, turn, pivot. Sorry, well, not use that word, but move around, and yeah, it's how we make it. I think the key thing for me is setting the goal, and then the question becomes how can we do it, not can we do it.
Mm.
And therefore, as you say, if we hit a barrier, it's just, well, we're still going to do it. It's just we've got to find a different way around this. Um,
I mean, I do, do some advisory work and help people. And the
yes,
first thing I always say to anybody who's setting out on the journey is expect to pivot because you will do, So, if you're just so uh, single focused on one thing, then you will fail because
yeah,
what your vision is from day one, and you look at any successful business, whether it's how Amazon started out and what it does now is completely different to most successful businesses. So my number one advice to anyone is expect to pivot because you will do.
yeah,
So as long as you expect to do it, then it won't come as any great surprise.
yes. Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is that always expect that it's not going to be exactly as you planned it to be, and
Mm.
because I think there's the phrase in the military that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. You,
Well,
you,
it's like, was it Mike Tyson said everyone's got a great plan until you get punched in the face. It's like,
that's exactly right, and that's the point, isn't
uh,
it? It's just like, right, okay, yes, I need to change this. And what would you say you've learned more about yourself throughout your journey so far, John? What would you say you've learned that is special about you?
um, I'm a lot calmer than I used to be. Nothing, I think the older I get, or the more calmer I get. Nothing sort of ever seems to bother me anymore. So, which I'm not sure it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I suppose you become, oh, it's not, you become thick-skinned. It's just when you've been around the block a few times and you've seen it all, then nothing tends to surprise you anymore. Although never underestimate the ability of staff to surprise you because they always will do at some point. But so I just think it's that calmness, which is important to have, and that
Yeah.
does rub off on everybody
Yes.
else around you.
Yes. And I suppose it goes back to your point about the quote about success doesn't go in a straight line. So if we're expecting there to be an issue, then I'm not saying we make it, but we accept it when it comes. We don't rail against it. We just go, great, pivot, move on. Um, Makes perfect sense. So looking forward, then, I mean, it sounds like you've got a really rosy future. But what does the future look like from your perspective, the next few years? And
So for us, it's all about the States. I mean,
right,
that really is going to be our biggest market, by a distance, and it's getting a strong foothold in the States. I mean, as I'm sure you know, franchising in the States is complicated
yes,
because you need a federal agreement for the whole of the states, and then every single state has its own franchising laws.
yes,
Some have none. Some, like California, have a lot.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
very different. So it's tackling America. That is our big, and we're just, in fact, we've just started to do our first big marketing campaign in the States,
brilliant.
and that's teed up ready for when everybody comes back off holiday in the next week or so. So yeah, the States is a big one for us, and it's getting that cracked. And whether we do it state by state, which is probably more likely, and we had some lengthy discussions with somebody for one of the states. Again, they approached us, but then their investor fell through, so which was a shame because they flew over a couple of times and we had some good conversations, but you know, no money, no deal. It's
Yeah,
it was one of those, but that did whet our appetite. And
yeah,
ultimately, you think in Germany, there's 2,000 EMS studios in Germany. Well, in the States there could be 20,000.
Yeah,
It's that size of market. It's
yeah,
just so big.
yeah.
And I think right now there's hardly any EMS operators out there, so
Brilliant.
it's a blank canvas to really hold on and get a foothold in. And we all know how the Americans love to franchise as well. So
Yep.
if we can prove the model out there, then I think it'll really fly. So that's our big number one priority right now.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, John, we wish you really all the best of luck in that and the other things that you're doing. And again, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months to just see the next stages. Hopefully, you've already raised some franchises over in the States. But before you go, for anyone that's watching that might be interested in contacting you or your company to maybe get involved in some way, what would be the best way of doing that?
Through LinkedIn for me, or just go to our website. Obviously, you can just click on the franchise brochure and download it, and then just come through the website. So either through me, through LinkedIn, or just go to our feelelectric.com website. Either
Brilliant.
way, and download the brochure, have a look at it, see what you think.
Brilliant. Well, John, again, thanks so much for coming back and talking a little bit about what's been going on and the successes you had. And but for now, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nice to see you again, Chris. Bye
And
now.
you. Cheers.